A couple of years back, I got in a terrible car accident. I was driving alone and driving down a long road on a hillside, sneezed, accelerated into a patch of dirt, and spun out. Next thing I know, everything slowed down, and I couldn't hear my music anymore. I heard a voice I knew, but couldn't place, tell me, "Don't worry, everything is going to be okay." I then felt my body relax, and was engulfed by a light with color that I cannot describe. I was no longer in my body. Someone, or something else was. I was somewhere else. I was with people who were no longer on this plane of existence. People I knew in this lifetime and others. I'm then gently placed back in my body. I open my eyes to the otherworldly light fading to normal earthly light. There was no pain, no fear, no sensation of something happened. I closed my eyes and fell asleep. I wake up strapped to a backboard with a neck brace on in the back of an ambulance. Thinking it's a dream, I fall asleep again, only to wake up in the same position. I hear people talking to me but can't make sense of the words. I am wheeled into a hospital with paramedics, nurses, and doctors surrounding me. I only understand some of their words. I go through all of their tests and get settled into a room. By this point, I can understand and respond to questions. After the tests and hours of waiting for answers, I was released from the hospital with a minor concussion, some bruising, and abrasions. I walked to my mom's car. The next day, I learned all of the details from various people. I learned from the police report I kept spinning and hitting the guardrail until my car lost momentum. I heard from the tow lot my car would never be roadworthy again, and whenever they see cars in the condition, they never get to speak to the drivers. I heard from my parents that I was completely unresponsive for more than an hour and was taken to a hospital that specialized in head trauma. They were told that I may never be the same. No one believed I was going to walk out of the hospital, let alone 7 hours after I was admitted. I've always known I've had something looking over me, but never knew how much they would risk for me. Before I start, I'd like to say that this story is true. To this day, I can't listen to any stories like it without panicking. I have only told one person about this. I'm anxious to get it off my chest. I'm 16 now, and when I was about 4, I had a really scary demon experience. I was adopted when I was 4, and this was before that. My birth mom always watched horror movies, and as a toddler, they scared me more than someone who understands it's just a movie. My mom put me and my brother to bed, and then she went out for the night. I woke up and was terrified. I remember it felt like the air in the room was heavy, like when it's too hot and you feel like you're being suffocated. I tried to get up to go to my mom, but it felt like I couldn't move. I looked around and saw that one corner of my room was a lot darker than the rest. I looked up from the bottom of the darkness to the top. When I got to the top, I saw glowing red eyes. They didn't look how everyone thinks they would. They looked like when you have a flash on a camera, but they were sort of luminescent. I couldn't move. Then, I realized that the reason was part of the blackness was wrapped around me. I was only able to leave when the thing disappeared. Years later, I decided to do some research and I found out that it was a demon. My worst fear is that one day I'll wake up and this monster will be back. So I found this cave while walking through the woods a few miles from my house, and thought it would be a good time for a little exploration. I didn't have any kind of gear or whatever for something like this, but I figured the light from my phone would be all I needed, especially since I wasn't planning on going too far in. As I entered, I realized how dark it really was in there. Even with the light from my phone, my vision was limited. It was very narrow as I got further in, and had to turn or curve every couple of feet, making it impossible to get a look at what was ahead of me. The dark was the least of my problems, though. The intense silence felt like a weight on my chest. All I could hear was my heart pounding in my chest, and my footsteps making the same pit-pat noise against the damp rock, over and over and over. It was getting overwhelming. I thought of turning back before I invested any more of my day into something that was turning out not to be as fun as I thought it would be. I froze in place for a moment, thinking about my next move. Even if I stayed, what was I hoping to see realistically? And how far was I planning on going? That's when I heard a rock roll across the hard ground in the distance. I stopped breathing and tried to listen for whatever or whoever had caused the noise. My heart pounded even harder, blocking out the sound of my own thoughts. Another noise broke the silence, a very faint patter against the ground, getting closer. I ran without even processing what was happening. All I knew is I was terrified. I stopped when I couldn't hear the patter anymore, trying to catch my breath and figure out where the hell I was. The passage had forked off several times as I ran, and I didn't know how I was going to get back. As I was going to start trying to backtrack, my phone screen dimmed. Battery low. Fuck. And that's when I heard the scariest thing I've ever heard in my life. A loud, screeching noise filled the air, starting out ear-splittingly high-pitched and slowly getting deeper, transforming into a demonic growl. I wanted to run, but with the echo, I couldn't tell what direction that thing was in. And that brings me to where I am now. I'm writing this on my phone, with what little battery I have left. I had to turn the screen down to the point that seeing more than 4 inches in front of me seems impossible. I keep hearing that thing in the dark. It's running around the chamber that I'm in. Its steps keep echoing around, and now it's making almost like a sharp, quick, raspy grunting noise. Every now and then I swear I feel something right next to me, almost like it's over my shoulder. I'll feel something brush against my hair, but nothing's there. Maybe I'm just going crazy down here. I keep getting scary images in my head, probably from a fear-filled imagination of ghastly creatures. I'm going to put my phone on standby for a few moments to try to preserve my precious battery life, and maybe my sanity. I hid in a small cubby-like hole in the wall of one of the passages. Something had touched my shoulder and then stroked my hand. When I'm not writing, I'm sitting in the dark, hoping my phone doesn't die. I'm going to start trying to find a way out of here. I can hear a stream, so that might lead to a way out. This was discovered in a Word file on a phone, found in a remote cave in Oregon. A person was also found nearby, mumbling to himself. His eyes were missing, believed to be self-inflicted, and his teeth were filed to points. There were chunks of his lip and a piece of his cheek missing, also believed to be self-inflicted. All police could get out of him is,
"He's in my head,"
which he repeats over and over. It's believed he suffered a psychotic break due to getting lost in an enclosed environment, which was limiting several senses. There's a short video he took on his phone at one point, showing the eyes of what looks to be some sort of cave-dwelling animal in the dark, walking back and forth, as if stalking him. Death and I have a strange relationship. When I was 5, I woke up to my best friend dead to a car accident. My family heard the crash, the death moans, everything. I heard her say goodbye. I cried in my sleep. More than 20 years later, it haunts me. I see my cousin. She is always with me. Years later, my grandparents died. That was the day it showed me where I live. It never shows me where I live. It was the last gift I received from my grandparents. I fully understood death. I stopped crying over death. My grandparents still visit me. Then my childhood sweetheart died. She had brain cancer. I saw her in the hospital close to death, but happy. I saw her smile for the last time as I said goodbye. She remained hopeful that she would beat it. She knew she would survive, and she did in a way. Her body died, but her spirit remains. She holds my hand when I feel grief. Last year, my dog died. I dreaded the day it was going to happen. She was ready to be out of pain, ready to be free. I wept for her. She was the last creature I got close to. She doesn't know she's dead. She still plays with me. There were many times I almost died. I was saved by those who died. A few weeks ago, I woke up in a panic. I texted my friend saying something wasn't right. She responded saying her brother died. Days later, I felt the same panic. I checked my phone to find out my aunt died. Now I feel constant panic, constant dread. I see death everywhere. This happened to me. So, I was spending the night at someone's house, and I was sleeping in a recliner, and just about 2 minutes after I was trying to sleep, I heard a voice whisper in my ear, and the voice say,
"Hey, Zack, are you dead yet?"
And he was at the other side of the room. I was freaking out, sweating, and I was scared. So I said, "Hey, did you say something?" And my friend replies with a, "No, you're scaring me." And I go to sleep beside where he is to feel safer. And it ended like that, but as I stare at the dark around the room, I can see it surround me. This story happened to my dad and my uncle. It is also true. I know that the story sounds weird like the previous story, but I swear this happened. My dad and uncle were working on a house when they were younger, and my uncle heard in my dad's voice say,
"Hey, Greg, come here."
So when he went in the room where my dad was working and said,
"What?"
and my dad said,
"Huh?"
and my uncle said,
"You said come here."
and he said,
"No, I didn't."
So he brushed it off. So my dad heard a voice in my uncle's voice say,
"Hey, Jeff, come here."
and he went into the room where my uncle was working and said the same thing.
"What?"
And my uncle said he didn't say anything. So he brushed it off. This is the third story. It is true. So my grandma had rolled out a rug. Then she went outside to get some clothes off the line. This was back in the day. And she came back inside, and the rug was rolled up, slumped, against a chair. This is the fourth and final story. It is true. My grandpa was driving his car, and just as he was coming over the hill he was driving on, he saw a flying saucer in a field that had just landed, so he turned around. I browse around the deep web around 4 to 6 hours a day, and I'm 15, so things can be really dangerous in a blink of an eye. It was Saturday, 10:05 in the morning, as I made me some coffee and went outside to have a morning smoke. Don't start saying it's bad, I know, but hey, I'm 15, typical teenager. I went inside, grabbed some coffee, and turned on my PC and got on the deep web right away. I browsed it for 15 minutes until I got hungry. I went to McDonald's as it's close to my home. I took a Big Mac and fries and went home to eat it, but when I got home, I saw that my computer screen had pictures of young girls on the screen, a title, Choose, and a man with a hoodie and an old-looking gas mask. I looked up on the screen and there was me and 2 others, a black-clothed girl and a white-clothed girl. I asked the man how the game goes, and he said to choose one screen and the person would be killed. I asked him what about the other 2. He said the other 2 would be released and freed. I said, if I click on my picture, I want to see the girls be freed first. He said, very well, and said choose right after. I clicked on my picture and said, just kidding, the one you click will be saved. I started yelling and screaming, let them go, and I was yelling and threatening him until he stopped me and said,
"If you don't behave, I'll have to close the screen right now."
What? I said, and watched as the 2 doors opened, one to the black-clothed girl and one to the white-clothed girl. In came one man in both rooms, with a huge chainsaw like the one Leatherface uses. First, the legs. They started from the knees and then the hands. I watched in horror as the girls screamed as their hands and legs were on the floor and they were trying to get away without their body parts. The man then said,
I love how they were so energetic and start, and now they are exhausted, done with life. Goodbye, Sam. I hope you make a better choice next time.
My screen went blank for a second and then back to normal. No man, no girls, no chainsaws. I didn't know if I should cry or laugh out of madness. I haven't gone to this website since, and I'm planning to video everything I see with my phone and show the police. I'm not telling you not to go to the deep web, but if you do, remember one thing. You are in trouble. Hello, my name is Rocco. Not my real name, but you can use it. I am 18 years old and I'm from Chicago. A very beautiful place besides all the violence. I'm a mellow guy, I like to smoke and relax, but I also live a crazy life. Not like go and shoot random people for no reason. More like you want problems? I can give you some problems type of shit. Basically, live by the gun, die by the gun, and I'm not really a believer in paranormal stuff. Until that one night. So at the time, I was 16 years old, and me and my friends decided to go smoke at one of the abandoned buildings by our school. It sounded like a good idea because we can't smoke in my house. I was okay with that. I grabbed my blunt and my gun. Note, I never leave my house without my gun. So we started walking. By the time we were there, it was 7:30. Chicago usually starts to get dark at that time, but that did not stop us. We got to the abandoned house and there was a door. I'm 6'3", so it was their idea for me to kick the door open. The door opened right away and we got inside. One of the guys went to check out the house to see if anyone was in there. By the time he came back, I was rolling my blunt, and I called out to him, "You find anything, you pussy?" He yells back,
Yo, mama!
We all laughed. Where I'm from, it's called Session, where all your friends sit around and smoke weed. So it started getting really late. It was about 11:45, and it was 3 of us. One of our friends leaves for home, so it's just me and Angel. We started talking about how weird it smelled in the house, but we forgot about that. I ran out of blunts and I told him to watch over the stuff. I told him I'd go to the gas station to get more. I leave and start walking. As I'm walking, I see this lady cross the street, and when she sees me, I have a lot of tattoos on my hands, so she probably thought I was bad news. I was like, whatever, and kept walking. I got the blunts and I headed back, and my buddy was like,
Bro, what were you doing in the bathroom?
Of course I'm very high, and in a confused tone I say, "What? I just walked in, bro." He goes,
Yeah, right, pussy, stop playing.
We both laughed it off, but I could tell he was scared. Mind you, we are very ghetto, and we don't get scared easily. As I'm smoking, I heard a loud bang, and we both looked at each other like, what the fuck? Mind you, it's now 12:34. I grabbed my pistol and went to look around. I see nothing, but for some reason I feel like we are being watched somehow. I sit back down, and as I do that, I hear a voice say,
Die.
Right at that moment, everything goes dark and the lights turn off. And I'm just going nuts, like what the fuck is going on? And boom, I'm on the ground, and I don't know what the fuck happened or what pushed me, but this shit was strange. And I looked up to see a man. Fuck, a very tall man. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, bro? We're just smoking. That's when I realized it was not a person. I stood up and the thing, or whatever, sat down in like a Spider-Man way, and he started saying things I was saying in my head, and it started laughing. The only problem was he laughed in my voice. That's when I snapped and I started shooting at it. I missed really bad. Then everything came back to normal, but I was on the ground again. As I look at my phone, it's 3 a.m. Nobody was around. My gun was on the side, and I remember having 6 bullets in it. It was empty. I got home and called Angel, and he said that as soon as the light turned off, he heard me screaming and stuff. Then, he heard the gunshots and ran home. He didn't want to go back because he thought the police were going to be there, but nobody came. It's Chicago. Don't ask why. I just recently started a glitch diary because I want to document everything strange, out of the ordinary, or glitchy that happens to me. Many of the glitches are just small annoyances. Like, I would place a book down on the coffee table and I would later find it back in my car from where I got it. I also get déjà vu of conversations and people's actions. There are also times where I totally misremember what someone looks like. I remember someone having blue eyes when they're actually brown. Small things like that. My first big glitch that made me question everything. It happened to me during a meeting where other people can support my glitch claim. The meeting was held during lunch, so I brought a banana, a sandwich, and a water bottle. I remember eating my food, then waiting until the meeting was over to throw my trash away. I didn't want to be rude and walk across the room and toss my trash. After roughly 45 minutes, the meeting ended, and I gathered my belongings and got back to my office. But I couldn't find my trash. I looked everywhere around me and still couldn't find it. I asked some of my coworkers and they didn't remember me getting up to toss it, nor do they remember anyone taking it from me. Feeling some panic start to set in, I made my way out of the office and just happened to glance into the trash can, only to find my trash. It was almost like I willed it. Another big glitch that messed with my mind happened when I was pet sitting for a family friend. They are very old school and didn't have a coffee maker. To make my morning coffee, I needed to use the kettle to boil water. Then I needed to pour the water over the coffee grounds, which are in a strainer over a mug. I can recall doing all of these steps to make my morning coffee. I left the kitchen to let the dogs out, only to come back to find the mug back on its shelf, and the kettle was cold. I apparently never made my coffee.